The man jammed the ice skates onto his shoes, then forced his mouth open wide, revealing a truly rotten cavity right there. With no dentist nearby to help him, he made a rather daring choice indeed. He put the ice skate in his mouth, carefully steeled himself, and smashed it hard with a rock with all his might. A scream of pain later, a bad tooth flew right out. He collapsed on the ground, feeling very relieved and grateful to be alive and quite fortunate, compared to the other unfortunate victims and survivors in the terrible accident. He drifted to a deserted island. At first, he'd hoped someone lived there, but it was completely empty. Only the endless sound of waves constantly answered him. The man could only try his best to save himself right there. First, he wrote SOS very clearly on the beach. Then, with great effort, he dragged his kayak ashore, creating a makeshift shelter and hoping a plane would spot him. Despite waiting until late at night, rescue didn't arrive. Worse, the SOS message on the shore had been washed away. He quickly gathered wooden stakes and, learning from his previous mistake, moved to a safer location. Before rescue, the man first had to solve the problem of food and water. Fortunately, he very soon found many scattered burst fruits along the shore. As he was carefully sorting them, a strange noise suddenly echoed nearby. On this desolate and sparsely populated island, he had to be constantly vigilant and very alert. Soon after that, he finally understood. It was just the sound of a coconut heavily falling with a thud directly to the ground nearby. Even though the water issue was temporarily solved, the man wasn't happy because the coconut shell was extremely hard. He couldn't open it even with all his strength. But he didn't give up, and kept smashing it hard with a rock, repeatedly. First a whack, then 2 more strikes, but after only 3 strikes, the rock shattered completely. Yet, the coconut remained utterly unscathed. Still, the sharp fragments made quick work of the husk, creating a small hole. Finally, he could drink the sweet, refreshing coconut water at last. However, he dared not relax at all. Food was the next important challenge. Before anything else, the man planned to thoroughly scout the entire island carefully and slowly. He then stumbled upon a cave nearby, but instead of immediately exploring it, he decided to first climb to the island's peak for a better overall view. He hadn't gone far when sharp stones cut his bare feet quite badly. So he sat right down on the beach then, tore strips from his pants leg with a rock, carefully packed them with fresh herbs, and tightly bound the wounds. Equipped with these makeshift food protectors, he soon reached the summit, only to realize, looking down, that it was an isolated island. A profound despair washed over him. Just then, he spotted a figure far out in the sea, and swam quickly towards it with great effort and unwavering determination. He soon realized that, sadly, the pilot was already lifeless. Fighting back tears, he quickly pulled the body from the water and laid it down very gently and carefully. He then found a working flashlight inside the pilot's pocket. The shoes were a bit small, but wearable with slight adjustments. He accidentally found another wallet, with a photo of the pilot's family in its lining. Afterwards, he buried the pilot on the island, thoughtfully placing the photo back in his pocket. Finally, he carved the pilot's name and dates on a nearby boulder, to express his respect and remembrance. Even though he had an extra pair of shoes, he utterly lacked crucial hunting skills, unfortunately and entirely. Even now, fishing in the sea remains incredibly difficult. Late that night, as he went to the beach to find some sustenance, he suddenly saw a light far away and desperately cried out loudly for help. The night was too dark and the distance too great, making it virtually impossible for anyone on shore to hear him. He then frantically waved his flashlight, flashing SOS signals, but the faint light still failed to attract any attention. Refusing to let go of this one chance, he hastily packed all usable belongings and paddled his raft after the ship. Facing wave after relentless wave, he gritted his teeth, pushing onward with all his might and resolve. However, in the next second, the man was still overturned directly and violently by the huge wave, and as a result, the raft was violently punctured by the sharp reef, and he suffered multiple and serious injuries. Left with no choice, he retreated back to the shore, quickly tended to his wound, and then, cruelly, the heavens opened with torrential rain. After carefully covering all the packages, he dragged his exhausted body into the cold, damp cave. Before he could even taste a drop of rainwater, he passed out completely. Now, his life was just like this flashlight. Without more energy, it would very soon be completely extinguished. The next morning, the man slowly awoke from his unconsciousness, only to find his leg wound severely infected. He was tempted to give up countless times, but seeing his girlfriend's picture reignited his will to survive. So, He decided to unpack the scissors first, hoping to find something life-saving. First, he pulled out a volleyball, then a lady's dress, and finally, a brand new pair of skates. Even as he unwrapped the last package, he paused. The box was marked with golden wings. Keeping hope alive and well, that was the way to keep living. He cut a piece of cloth with his skate and rebandaged the wound on his leg. Cardboard makes decent padding, and these skates are incredibly useful splitting tough leaves and fashioning them quite well into a fishing spear with skill. Soon, he quickly caught a crab. He thought he'd finally get a meal, but the pungent fishy smell made it impossible to swallow. Then, using his dress as a small fishing net, he caught a plump fish, which he eagerly devoured. He didn't expect the taste to still be so awful, so he decided to try making fire by friction. But he'd underestimated the task, struggling from day to night, and then from night until dawn. The next day, with his palms raw and close to blistering, he still hadn't seen a single spark. He wouldn't give up easily, and planned to rest and then try again very soon. That's when he had a flash of inspiration while digging bacon with a stone. He then thought of a new method. Rubbing back and forth would create a flame much easier. Practice proved this method feasible. Sure enough, this method is not only more effortless, but increases friction speed greatly. Just when a flame seemed imminent, a mistake ruined everything that He was consumed by utter despair. All his efforts were for naught. Perhaps only by venting could he release the pent-up frustration and rage within. Then, the volleyball marked with his palm print clearly caught his eye, and he slowly regained his composure, even using the sweat from his brow to draw a smiley face on it, naming it Wilson. He then carefully placed it on a nearby stump and resumed drilling wood for fire, glancing back at it from time to time. With the company of a companion, he felt truly energized, and smoke quickly billowed from the wood. Upon inspection, the flame quickly died out. But he discovered something new. To allow more air in, he carefully dug a small trench in the ground, then placed the wood just above it, and then vigorously rubbed the wood back and forth. Sure enough, with the air's help, thicker and even denser smoke soon appeared. He gently blew on it with utmost care, and the flame ignited instantly. All his efforts paid off. The man was overjoyed like a child, for he saw a glimmer of hope. That evening he lit a very large fire on the shore, and truly celebrated this special moment in his own unique way, feeling content and very happy. He savored the fragrant grilled crab meat so much. Little did he know, he'd be stranded on that very remote island for 4 long years indeed. The man was a changed person, gaunt and weary, but never giving up the faintest hope of returning home. One day, while out foraging at sea as usual, he stumbled upon a huge plastic board. He bored it back and stood it up on the beach, unsure of its use at first. Then a gust of sea breeze knocked it flat to the ground. It dawned on the man then, this plank was perfect for a sail. So he resolved to build a raft. He gathered wood, but still needed rope. He found others to help him. Plenty of branches were gathered, and their bark was stripped to weave into rope, a perfect and truly ideal solution. With the tide rising soon, he had to work day and night to speed up the process. After securing all the ropes, they immediately began assembling the raft. He never imagined that even stripping all the bark from the islet, they still wouldn't have enough rope for the small boat. Silently prompted by Wilson, he vividly recalled the suicidal rope, now undeniably crucial for his very survival. The raft was soon complete and ready for its sea journey. Before leaving, he donned his girlfriend's watch, carefully secured Wilson along with a wing box with meticulous care, and etched his Long Island ordeal onto the rock face. The men then untied the ropes and pushed the raft into the sea. Even if giant waves could hinder its progress, they could never truly stop his unwavering determination to return home. Facing the waves that had defeated him countless times before, he was now fully and completely prepared. Even in his excitement, he glanced back at the island he'd called home, and a strange sadness welled up inside him. Perhaps a reluctance to leave that island, or a deep longing for the civilized world. Life at sea was even harsher than on the deserted island. Thirst was quenched by rainwater, and hunger was satisfied by spearfishing in the vast ocean. Tragically, a sudden and incredibly powerful storm ripped away the golden wings. His emotional anchor, Wilson, bobbed briefly in the waves and vanished. The splash from a shark jolted the man awake sudden. He looked quickly towards where Wilson had been, but saw absolutely nothing. Seeing Wilson drift dozens of meters away, the man jumped into the sea without hesitation and swam very quickly directly towards him. But with the rope stretched to its limit, he ultimately had to make that agonizing decision, despite his deep reluctance. The man returned to the raft, utterly broken. He kicked debris into the sea. Without Wilson's presence, he quickly drifted to sleep, completely unaware a ship passed behind him. Thankfully, the splashing from the shark startled the man awake again. He no longer needed to desperately call for help, as the navigator had already spotted him. Back home, he saw his former girlfriend, but she had already started a new family, and her husband was, of all people, his former dentist. The package, overdue by 4 years, was personally returned by the man, who also left a sincere thank you note.